All right, hey, this video is for the general managers starting off as SP2 Regionals type guys. I wanted to go through some trainings today, get it on videotape so you guys will always have it, so that as you go through down the road you can watch and re-watch this tape so that you always know what you're supposed to be doing. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about a couple things. First, again, you will be starting as SP2 Regionals, eventually moving into General Managers. So I'm going to start talking to you as if you're General Managers so you know how the whole system works together and how it all works. So number one, what is your job? It's difficult for me to explain on exactly what your job is, but you have bottom line responsibility for each and every area. So you have responsibility for the SP1 Leader, the SP1 Regional, the SP1 Recruiters, the SP2 Recruiter, the SP2 Regional. You are over an entire area and have bottom line responsibility for the growth of that area. The only thing that you don't have responsibility for is the install portion of those areas. So you don't, that's TJ's job. But outside of that, anything sales related, salespeople related, this is all your job. So we're going to go through today what each person's job is, how they accomplish their job, what's important with their job. Those are all the things that we're going to talk about today. So who are you in charge of would be the next question. I just put that really anybody who is sales oriented in your area. I kind of went through the list there. We're going to go through these lists together. How does the whole, and we're going to talk about how does the whole system fit together. So again, your job is the whole job. So let's first talk about SP1 Leader. SP1 Leader is the most important. Honestly, we've come to see in the areas that we've started that the SP1 Leader is the most important. The SP1 Leader. If you are starting a brand new area, then this is the first piece of the puzzle that you need to have before you can actually start an area. We found that if you have a good SP1 Leader, everyone else's job is easier. The recruiters for both SP1s and SP2s is easier. The trainings for SP1 and SP2 is easier. You have to have an SP1 Leader. I'm also going to talk about what they get paid. So for right now, at least in most purposes, an SP1 Leader makes a $25 a kilowatt override. What is it on his whole area? Plus they make $115 per kilowatt on their own sales. So this is their own sales. Here's 25 a kilowatt on the office as a whole that he oversees. Okay? So he makes $25 a kilowatt on his personal office. He makes $115 per kilowatt that funds on his own deals. His job is to be just one thing. An example. Do not have him manage. Do not have him help people. I mean, if people are going to shadow him, no big deal. But he is not there to manage or take phone calls or whatever. He's there to do one thing and one thing only, and that's be an example and set an amazing amount of leads that sit. The expectation for a leader, the expectation is perfection when it comes to hours worked, doors knocked, the way he's doing it. He needs to be your perfection of what you think the job needs to be as far as this SP1 Leader goes. He also runs correlations. He's going to run correlation meeting. So correlation meetings and go knock as hard as he possibly can. Never have him do anything but that. Don't have him help you with anything else. The temptation is going to be there to, oh, we should have him do this, or maybe he can help me with that. Don't have him help you with anything. The only thing that he does is be the best example in the whole wide world. He makes your job easier. The more you put on his plate outside of that, the less effective he's going to be, just setting a ton of leads and making sure everything else goes well. So this is what your SP1 Leader does. He needs to be your first hire when you go through, if you're starting an area from scratch. Okay, let's move on to the SP1 Regional. Okay, an SP1 Regional's job SP1 Regional. Right now, let me go through their pay real quick. Right now, they start at $18 an hour. They start at $18 an hour. and as kilowatts funded grow, their hourly grows. So their hourly grows as their kilowatts funded for their area grows. So it grows, and it grows $5 per hour for every 25 kilowatts funded. So as their area goes from about 25 kilowatts a week funded to 50 kilowatts funded a week to 75 to 100, their hourly grows by $5 an hour. So from 18 to 5. They also have bonuses. So their bonuses range from $500 to $2,000 a month based on the growth that they achieved in that specific month. So they can make decent money. So what is their job? Oh, sorry, it's not recruiting. What is their job? They are over the production of their reps. They're going to be the ones sending out, doing incentives, daily contact, talking to their guys, getting their schedules, getting them out. The other thing that they're responsible for is the pass-off. When a new person comes into the organization, or a new SP1 comes into the organization, an SP1 is going to sit down, or a lead setter is going to sit down, and they're going to take an online training course on how to set leads, on solar, how to set leads, and really what their job is. At the end of that whole deal, they need to do a pass-off, a script pass-off, and an overall information pass-off with the SP1 Regional. It's up to the SP1 Regional to make sure that pass-off is done perfectly. Not like, you're going to have your SP1s are going to get tempted to be like, oh, that was pretty good, let's just let you knock. That doesn't happen here. It's different if you're just letting guys go out and do lead setting without an hourly wage, which we don't do. But if you weren't doing it that way, crap, if they go work all day long and they don't set any leads, no skin off our back. That's not how it works here. So this pass-off is our way of knowing that we're going to make money when we send guys out. If the SP1 Regional is not doing his job on the pass-off, if he's not making sure that pass-off is pristine, we're going to send guys out, they're going to waste my money, I'm going to be upset about that. So people do not knock doors until they know that pass-off is good. The SP1 Regional needs to be absolutely certain that that person's pass-off was good enough to send that guy out, and he's going to set a lead every 2 hours at least, and he's going to have a sit-down every 4. So that's what the SP1 Regional does, is he's all about production. The biggest way that we judge or track the SP1 Regionals is what's their bottom line responsibility? Is leads per hour and sit downs per hour. If it doesn't fall under leads set per hour or sit downs per hour, it's not their job. These are the main contact for the reps. They assign area. They do really everything that needs to be done for a rep. The SP1 Regional is going to be the one who does that job. Okay? All right. Let's move on from the SP1 Regionals. Then we're going to move on to the SP1 Recruiters. How is the SP1 Recruiter paid? They are paid, I believe, $15 to $18 an hour. Plus they're paid $20 for each rep. $20 for each rep that they bring on. $20 per month. $20 per month for each rep that they bring on and stays. So as many as they've recruited and have stayed, then they are going to make $20 for each of those reps. So they can build a nice little residual for themselves. What are they responsible for? Obviously the recruiting of SP1s. That's their main job. They are to go out and put flyers, post anything that comes with recruiting. They need to be posting ads. Posting ads. They are also going to, so they post the ads, they do campus recruiting, which means going to colleges and recruiting. So they do campus recruiting. They also do the interview. They also do all the onboarding. Okay? They're going to do the interview, do the onboarding. I'm going to go more into depth. Actually, I'll just do it now. On the SP1s, when they do the interview, it's very important that they know how to do the interview right. It's your guys' job as the general manager or SP2 Regional, or you know how that works. It's your job to make sure that their interview is done the correct way. The way that the interview needs to be done is, it's honestly, if they like the guy, it turns more into a sales presentation rather than just a hiring interview. We can talk more about that in another video more specifically, or maybe between just you and me. But this interview is one of the most important parts of the whole process. Also, the way they post ads and the way they do campus recruiting is very important. But really, if this interview is done correctly, people will come on and they'll be excited to come on. If the interview is done poorly, people won't come on, people won't join, people won't want to work for our company. This interview is probably the most important part of how an SP1 recruiter actually does his job. Okay? All right, let's move on to the SP2 Regional. The SP2 Regional. Now we're talking as if you're the GM and you have an SP2 Regional. What is their job? Their job is hiring SP2s. Now, if you have an SP2 recruiter, then you don't need that. But in the most places, we don't right now. So SP2 Regional does the hiring. They do the training of the SP2s. They do the pass-off. For the SP2. They do the, honestly, most important, they do the production for the SP2s, which is the daily contact, the really getting your guys motivated, really helping them change their lives, really getting going on what they're doing. They do the production, so the hiring of the SP2s, the trainings of the SP2s. Honestly, hiring will take care of itself if your lead setters are good. If your lead setters are setting a ton of leads, hiring we won't have any problems. Trainings and pass-offs, guys, if I was to star something, it would definitely be the pass-off. Nobody goes on a close till you're absolutely certain, as the SP2 Regional, that they are going to close 30% of their deals. If you don't believe they can close 30% of their deals, and not even just believe, know. You got to know that they're going to close 30% of their deals. Don't hire bad guys, guys. Hire good guys. Don't waste time. The more the crappier guys you hire, the more time you're going to spend training them. Just let it go. Just hire good guys. Don't waste your own time. Then the daily production, figuring out each guy. And we're in production. I could do a 3-hour video on production, so I'm not going to do that today. Getting guys motivated, keeping them out, doing what they're supposed to. This is the job of the SP2 Regional. Okay? Now, in the case that there's an SP2 Regional and there's an SP2 Recruiter, that system works a little bit different. So I'll just write this here. If you have an SP2 Recruiter, he is now responsible for the hiring of the SP2s and the trainings of the SP2s. The pass-off and the production always stays with the SP2 Regional. This is the beginning of how this system works, but these are everybody's jobs. Let me move on. We just did the recruiter. Now that's kind of the end of my slides of the stuff I had to go through. What I really want to talk about in this video is our company was built on first 3 things and then another 4. And I'm going to go through the first 3. The first 3 things, and these are just the core things that I believe in as a business owner, and to me, if what Brio signifies, this is what it signifies to me. 1, I expect you guys to care like I care. Okay, that's first fundamental principle, because you will be working directly for me. First, I expect you to care like I care. Now, what does that mean? Guys, when I do your guys' job, I eat, breathe, and sleep the people that I'm in charge of. If somebody's struggling, that's all I think about. If people are doing well, that's all I think about. I literally think about my people and their success all day long. And how am I going to grow that area? I think about that all day long as well. So number one, care like I care. This is an all-day event. Number two, now also, I expect you to care so much that you're actually going to require other people to care as much as you care. I don't want anybody working for Brio who's not willing to care like I care and care like you care. If they like, for instance, you're going to be dealing, with a lot of closers. When I was learning how to sell, I did that all day long. I didn't stop learning how to sell until I felt like I was a genius at it. That's what I expect from you, and or when I was learning to manage, I learned how to manage all day long. That's all I did. I watched books, I read video. I did anything I could do to be a better manager. That's what I expect of you. I expect them to care like you would care if you were a closer. All day, it's a thing. Until they're good at it, until they're geniuses, they should be eating and breathing and sleeping it all day long. That's kind of what I expect. But at the same time, what's harder is it's really easy to care yourself, guys. It's harder to require others to care. If you can't do that, this may not be the job for you, to be honest. You have to expect everybody to care. Number two, I expect everybody in the organization to do their best. Everybody's best is different. You're going to have some closers that you're working with, and some of these closers, their best may be 7 a week. Some might only be 4 a week. Whatever their best is, you're going to require it of them. And what I mean by that is, I've had reps before. Let's say I've got 2 reps, and I got one rep that I know he's capable of doing 10 closes a week. Let's say I've got another rep that I know is capable of doing about 5. If the guy that can do 10 is only doing 5, I'm going to fire him. This is not the right place for him. That's not why that's really just not what we're about. Now the guy who's doing 5 and that's his best, that's what his best is. We're okay with that. Again, we don't want to hire a lot of those guys, but at the end of the day, everybody needs to do their best. Okay. Number 3. I expect everybody to sacrifice like I sacrifice. That means they got to be willing to really look at themselves in the mirror, really figure out how they're going to get better, really figure out the things that are holding them back from being more successful. Guys, I've had over the course of my career in doing this, I've probably had over 20 things that as I'm trying to be more successful and I'm trying, I run into one thing that I'm like as I'm not getting the results I want, I have to look at myself. I don't get mad at anybody else. I look at myself and realize, what am I, and one thing for me was, and that's why it's on this board, there came a time where I was willing to sacrifice, but I was unwilling to ask others to sacrifice the way I sacrifice. And that's really what held back all the companies that I started beforehand at the level that, the reason Brio's hit the success that it's had is because I'm no longer afraid of this. As you guys are working through how you become successful, what are you not willing to sacrifice to be more successful or to have it go the way you want to? And I'm not just really talking just in Brio, in your family life, in your home life, in your Brio life, in the things you're doing. What are you willing to give up and what are you not willing to give up? I'm willing to sacrifice anything to get what I want. And that's what I expect you guys to do. Now, again, within, I believe in, I'm a Mormon, so I'm not going to do anything that's going to break those things. I'm going to be a good person. I'm going to do what I'm supposed to. I'm not talking about sacrificing being a good person. I'm talking about sacrificing other things, the things that really hold us back from being successful. So so these are the 3 things that you need to fully understand, but require of everybody that you work with, and teach them how to require that of their people. From top to bottom, people have to care like I care. People have to do their best, and they have to be willing to sacrifice. And you have to be willing to fire people that are not going to do those 3 things. Because honestly, guys, I don't even want to be here if we're not willing to do these 3 things. Okay? Those are the first three things that our company is built on. This is who we are. This is what we are. If you're not that, I need you to go find somewhere else to work. I'm being serious about that. This is the only thing that matters to me. When I show up and we're struggling, but I can tell that everybody cares, and I can tell everyone's doing their best, and I can tell they're willing to sacrifice, then I'm okay with that. If we're struggling and it's because of these three things, people are going to get let go. That's just how easy it is for me. These are the three things. These are only real three things that matter to me. Now, as you're working with your people, here's kind of an assessment that you can use, and here are the other 4 principles that our company is built on, other than the first 3. Number 1, I really believe it takes these 4 things to be successful. In any degree, at any level, it takes these 4 things to really be successful. Number 1, and you can apply these 4 things to anything: your home life, your work life, your spiritual life, whatever it is, your health, anything that you can do, you got to know these 4 principles. And number 1, you got to know who you are. But you got to really know who you are. You got to know your strengths. You got to know your weaknesses. You got to know who you are. Or if you're over a department or you're over an area, you got to know who that area is, what it really actually is, who the people are that you're working with. You've got to know who you are. You've got to be constantly assessing who you are, strengths, weaknesses, those kind of things. You got to know who you are. Okay? Number 2. You got to know what your perfect end result is, where you're headed. You got to be assessing this all the time. In my personal life, to give you kind of an idea of what this means, and this story is a little weird, but it's still important to me. I don't really think of just know your perfect end result. When I think of myself, this is the best way I can think to explain this to you guys. If I could see God, right? If God could come and I could see God one time, and I could ask Him for one thing, I would want to see myself at the end. What I look like when it's done, when I'm perfect, when I really can't grow anymore. What type of person would I be? That's what I would ask for. Because if I could know where I was going, it would make it that much easier to know who I am today in comparison to where I'm going. Now that's a very extensive way of thinking about it, but I need you guys to think about your perfect end results in the same way. What do they look like when they are perfected? What does your area look like when it's perfect? What does everything you're doing look like when it's done, finished, perfect? You need to be reassessing that every single day and all the time. Are you in line with that? Do you even know what it is? I'm going to ask you this question 100 times, so you need to think about it. So, number 1, know who you are. Number 2, know what your perfect end result is. Now, and maybe even go back in comparison to this. Where are you in comparison with this perfect end result? Number 3, I need people that can understand drastic change. Guys, this one thing right here, I'll pay any amount of money for people who know how to get drastic change. Drastic change might be the most important principle out there. And I'm going to compare that to what you usually see in the world. And what you usually see in the world is, I'm going to do my best and hope that something good happens to me. If you're living your life this way, you need to change that today. No longer working for me are you going to be able to just well, I'm just going to do my best and hope that things turn out for me. That's not what we're about. That's not what I'm about. I'm about people thinking about their problems until they come to a very specific, very drastic change that can get them what they want the very next day. One story I'll tell you, and I'll tell you on this. So we had the closing percentage, even just a few months ago, 3 or 4 months ago, the closing percentage was about 12% for the closers. That wasn't okay for me. So I went home over the weekend and I thought, what is the drastic change that needs to happen in order for our closing percentage to be at 30%, which is where we want it to be? What do I have to do Monday morning to go and never again see 12% closing percentage ever again? Well, what I determined is we needed to compete. All the SP2 regionals, all the SP2 guys needed to compete versus me in a competition of who can motivate their guys the best and who can get them going. That week we had a 30% closing ratio. My guys' personal closing percentage was about 58%. So anyways, drastic change is very important. You've got to be able to know, now I'm just going to hope and think that, what are we changing today to get a result? Right? Like, you can do this in your own lives, you can do this in your family life, you can do this anywhere. If you really want something, just don't let it, like, oh, I hope that one day I have a really happy marriage. Well, hope that happens someday. No, what are you going to do that day to make sure that guarantees that result? Drastic change. Got to have people who understand drastic change. And number 4, is how strong is your commitment to perfection? In one of the self-help things I listen to a guy named Brendan Burchard, and he talks about people saying they're perfectionists. A true perfectionist gets started somewhere and perfects something. You know, you hear a lot of time, well, I can't, well, I'm a perfectionist, so, you know, I'm not going to be able to get started on that yet, because I'm not going to do it till I can perfect it, whatever. Like, it's weird, right? That's not what a perfectionist. Guys, I have failed in my attempt to build Brio or anything else I've done. I've failed easily, guys. I've easily failed over 100 times. I really believe that. I've probably failed over 100 times. But I'm committed to my goal. I'm committed to perfection. I'm committed to where we're going. So I keep trying and trying, regardless of how many times I fail. I'm looking for guys that can do this, right? As the GMs and the regionals, you guys have to be the best at these 4 principles. And then you have to be the best at teaching these 4 principles to everybody else that you're working with. From the SP1 Regionals, who are they? What's their perfect end result for their area? What's the drastic change that they're going to do today to move towards that? And how committed are they to getting that goal of perfection? This is really the next 4 principles that our company was built on. The original 3, that's like a basis of a business. Without those 3, you don't get off the ground. These 4 are what take you to beating everybody else and destroying everything. So this is what I need from you guys. We're going to talk a lot about this as the GMs of each area. Do you know the 4 principles? Do you know who you are? Do you know your perfect end result? Do you know how to get drastic change? And do you have a commitment to perfection? Right? Do you have that commitment that you can get up and fail 100 times? Guys, short video on just the basics of what being a GM is. As I get questions and stuff, I'll make more videos and post those so that we can get further along. I appreciate you guys. Stay positive. It'll work in your favor over time. And I'm always here. Thanks.